This is John Wilcock. This is Wait a Minute. In the background is the fountain of... Well, I'm in the town of Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I came here to attend something called the Travel Media Showcase. They had it for 2 or 3 years in Atlantic City, and then I haven't heard anything from it since for several years. And this year it popped up again in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I assume that Atlantic City were the hosts originally, and that Fayetteville are the hosts this time. And what it is it brings together travel agents, travel writers, editors, tourist boards, people from various tourist departments, all for a 3-day kind of melee in which we all kind of meet each other. In actual fact, the main part, which will occur tomorrow, is in a big hall filled with tables staffed by these various tourist officials, and the riders have 15-minute appointments with 30 or 40 of them. It's quite amusing. I'll show you a little bit of it. I don't think it'd be very interesting to show you a lengthy interview, but I'll pan around the room and show you what it looks like when it starts tomorrow. But Fayetteville is, I knew nothing about it, but it has a bit of a history. It was a Confederate place in the Civil War. It abdicated from the Union and joined the Confederates. But earlier, before that, in the Revolutionary War, the Marquis de Lafayette, a French, I think general maybe, but a French big shot anyway, gave a lot of help to the revolution. And they named the place, which would originally have been a Scottish town of all things, they named it Fayetteville in honor of the Marquis, who actually did come and visit some years later. Originally it was settled very early. It was settled 1640 something like that. That didn't take very well because Indians and pirates basically drove the original settlers out. The settlers came down from the original settlers up in the coast, up in Cape Cod and around there. But the Scots came and founded a town called Campbelltown, I think. And that's what later became Lafayette. I don't know why the Scots were attracted to it, but that's part of the heritage of the place. At any rate, this will be a show mainly taken here in fact entirely taken here during the Travel Media Showcase. And I'll try and show you kind of roughly what it's about. And also, when I go on the tour tomorrow afternoon, I'll show you some of the history of the place. In the meantime, I'll show you a picture of Lafayette. This is the 18th century portrait of the Marquis de Lafayette, and it's part of the publicity material that they're very anxious to spread out in this town to all the riders who are here. But I thought it was amusing that they gave us bottles of water, and the bottles of water have a tag on them. They point out that Babe Ruth he hit his first home run here. That was in 1914. I guess when in the very early days of his career. It was 135 yards he hit. But they say Jim Thorpe, Olympic medalist, hit his first professional homer here in the 1909 to 1910 season. And then Archibald Moonlight Graham, made famous from the movie Field of Dreams, spent the first 12 years of his life in Fayetteville. Kind of funny they attached this thing to all the bottles of water and give you a bottle of water with a bit of history on it. Babe Ruth, incidentally, George Herman Ruth, I think originally, got his name Babe here, was named Babe here. It's a pleasant enough hotel with a huge number of rooms and a nice garden here, but this is only part of it. There's a whole other section with hundreds of rooms. But what I came to show you basically was the mural in the swimming pool. When I came down here earlier, I was the only person swimming, and there's still nobody here. But what amused me was the imagination of the artist, not the pictures themselves, which are, kind of pleasant, but the fact that the wall appears to be falling apart. And it's only when you look around a bit that you realize it's deliberate. It deliberately looks like it's falling apart. I bet the artist had a hell of a job persuading the the hotel that it was a good idea and not a bad one, they probably said, well, you know, people will think that we're not repairing it. Kind of cute. In fact, they repeat to some extent the sort of cracked upness of the thing down below, and also on the wall up here. Really looks like it's a mess, doesn't it? A deliberate mess. They told me there was a hospitality suite, so I came looking for it, and sure enough, cookies and coffee. The pre-dinner reception. This is rather curious, don't you think? I think we're going to the Botanical Gardens for dinner. Even the musicians are going. It's quite a lengthy walk to wherever we're going. The musicians got a ride, however. We're confronted along the route by maidens from various countries, or representing various countries. And not only maidens.
Congrats.
A little snack to keep us going.
Help you.
Our goal is in sight.
There's another golf. But they also have their own territory. Hi. And did you go in the aviary?
No, we didn't. No time.
The night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner.
At breakfast, here's a guy making 6 omelets at a time. So there's 100 booths or more, and everybody has 15 minutes at each booth talking to whoever represents that particular place or state or city or whatever. And then on the quarter hour they announce everybody has to change. It's like musical chairs.
Is now over. Please proceed to your 9:30 appointment.
Now everybody's about to move and move to the next appointment.
Right.
What percentage of the people that visit your Niagara place mention barrels?
I wish we knew that answer for the percentage. I wouldn't even
Well,
be
I
able
think
to guesstimate.
everybody asks that. They also ask about the tightrope walkers, the daredevils, and we have a great daredevil museum that probably would give you a better idea of all of that history.
Right, history. But I think Marilyn Monroe really put us on the map. And when the movie Niagara was, filmed, and I mean, it became a worldwide, phenomenon with Marilyn and her movies. So I think everyone knows it, and everyone knows Niagara Falls.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're very long-suffering, the people that man these booths. I mean, can you imagine having to tell the same story about the glories of your area to a succession of 20, 30 people, one after another, repeat all the industries and the hiking opportunities and the famous chefs and the gourmet meals and all the other attractions of your area. And they nearly always have souvenirs of some sort, either little candies or something like that. Some of them actually take your picture with a disposable camera and then have you take a picture of them with another disposable camera and then give you the camera to take away. There's a lot of loot. You need a bag to carry it all. In addition to my ordinary bag, I picked up this really nice, colourful one from Malaysia to carry the souvenirs in. Well, this is Charles Winters from Huntsville in Alabama. How does it feel to have to just tell the same story over and over again to people, you know?
Oh, John, I really enjoy it, and it's not exactly the same story. I try to tailor the story for the individual, but I'm excited about what Huntsville has to offer, and anytime I have an opportunity to tell people about it, I'm more than happy to.
Does everybody react more or less the same way, or?
Most everybody's surprised about all that Huntsville has to offer for groups and individual tourists.
They all say that, you know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, one day we'll see you in Huntsville.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And then almost every time you sit down, there are some new little bits of swag, not like Beverly Hills swag, but useful things like this is a tiny umbrella, for example, in its own little case. Little folding umbrella. This is the lunch session.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yo left, right. Yo left, right there. Yo left, right. Yo left, right there. More time, march. Course, hold. Pump, wait, rest. 10 minutes. 30 or C-17 high performance aircraft just moments before the 82nd Airborne jumps into the darkness of the night. Sound off for crew attack.
As you might have gathered, this is a military town. Fort Bragg is nearby, and the people who are going on the military tour today are being given meals ready to eat in a package.
America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, He filled us away, you my girl, my girl,
We want to continue our program, but I believe it's time to eat. Am I correct? Rebecca? Time to eat!
And then there's a lunch, but what a lineup. I think I'll wait to the end. This afternoon we're taking a tour, so that'll be what comes up next. My tour is called Militia Something and Moonshine.
Which is the Fayetteville Independent Light Infantry, and he'll talk to you about that. It's one of the oldest militias in North Carolina, if not the oldest. And it's the official historic command of North Carolina. And we're going to experience a couple other things beyond what he has to tell you, but I'm going to let him start it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Can't get much more out. So.
I want to welcome you all to the sunny South. A lot of you are from places that don't experience this level of humidity that we're having, but actually this is mild and pales in comparison to what we were experiencing a couple of weeks ago. So actually today is a pleasant day for us. As Rebecca stated, I want to welcome you to the city of Fayetteville. The city of Fayetteville is an ancient colonial port city established at the head of navigation on the Cape Fear River, making us a city that existed under British rule. We are the conduit between the principal port city in North Carolina, that being Wilmington, And at the time of the colonial period, we served at the head of navigation on the Cape Fear River, making this a very important trade. Time up to the beginning of the Second World War, when home guards were not allowed to fight anymore. Home guards like this one. This was not the National Guard, but an independent military unit. These would make somebody want to spend their own time and money, possibly be deployed, and not be compensated. The militia unit was very fraternal, historically. It was a society of people that had common interests. They were from the same town. They shared a lot of the same things. And as such, the standards were very high to be in the militia. One of the ancient regulations of the militia requires that every member has to be a gentleman. Any conduct unbecoming a gentleman results in automatic expulsion. You have to be accepted by the membership. And you've got these people making all of these sacrifices.
The official drink of this particular regiment is Drambuie. The area was settled by Scots originally, and the guide said that one of the first thing that Scots do is to establish a school, a church, and a still, but not necessarily in that order. Well, Drambuie being a bit hard to obtain, with the still they started making moonshine. And everybody is now having a sample of that.
Infantry on its birthday, 213 years of active service to the nation, to the state, and to the city of Fayetteville.
Here, here.
This is a sweet benefit.
As for Drambuie, that's easily my favourite drink. I've been to the pub in Scotland where it was supposedly invented. It's at least $30–40 a bottle, and we're all getting a sample of that.
This
bottle of moonshine.
It's not the real.
And if you never had Drambuie, you should definitely try it sometime. It's easily my favourite drink if you don't count champagne. It's kind of Scotch-based, but it's kind of has a mist to it. It's sweet a little. It's almost like honey. Very good on the palate. Sir?
Major Bruce J. Dawes, Fayetteville Independent Light Infantry, commanding.
Great, thanks a lot. So in this headquarters of this infantry division or whatever it is, it's sort of not exactly a museum. It has all the artifacts relating to the history of the place. This is the carriage that Lafayette sat in when he visited. A lot of places were named after Lafayette because of his generosity to the American Revolution, and this is the first town named after him, so this is the one he visited when he visited the States in 1840 something.
Yeah, I've been the commander here for 22 years. So it's not a lot of upward mobility.
www.visitlafayetteville.com. Thanks a lot. Downtown Fayetteville.
This is where people would shop, people would window shop on Sundays. All the major Christmas shopping was done down here. In 1975, we had a very large shopping mall that opened on the west side of the city. It took all of the major department stores, and when they shut down, the small department stores shut down. Then all of these businesses along here were boarded. If you visited Fayetteville 10 years ago, all of these stores had plywood on the windows, upstairs and downstairs. They were vacant. They were being held onto by people that were looking at them as future investments. One thing that the city of Fayetteville did to be proactive and to restore the downtown area was to pass a very strict ordinance called demolition by neglect, which does not allow people to hold on to buildings and let them get into a state of decay. It required within a 6-month period for everybody to remove the boards, restore their windows with the Historic District guidelines, to fix any leaking roofs. Any architectural members that were in decay had to be repaired, or they would be cited $100 a day. We didn't know how this was going to go over. As it turned out, it was very successful. We're experiencing a rebirth of the downtown area. It has not come full swing, but if you can imagine, it hasn't been that many years ago, and I saw some people nodding their heads and traveled down Hay Street during that period. This was all just plywooded and boarded up. We'll never be a shopping district like shopping malls, but we've reinvented ourselves with a lot of specialty shops with attention to historic preservation. Somebody was asking me about painted bricks. Bricks that have been previously painted are allowed to be repainted.
What a great, simple idea. If you've got a boarded up place, you get fined $100 a day unless you do something with it. Rent it out or at any rate revive it. And as he says, it worked. Of course, ice cream shops work anywhere. This is called the Chocolate Lady. Here's the mandatory animal that's always in my show somewhere. There's always an animal. Here we have two of them. Cute, eh? This is the market house, and I understand it's pretty old.
Wagons loaded with everything from lumber to cotton to tobacco. Underneath the market house, there were 15 stalls that were auctioned off every year to the highest bidder. Fish, meat, produce predominantly sold under the market house. Activity spilling into the street.
It's on side of, well, the sun's in my eyes, I can't see. Anyway, there it is, the old town hall. Two creeks crossed here. It was called Cross Creek, and then at one point named Fayetteville after the Marquis de Fayette. It's in the city. It dates back to 1788. It's Cool Springs House.
Tavern.
Sorry, Cool Springs Tavern. Not a tavern anymore though, right?
We did get to tour a lot of the devastated area. Looked like a war zone, you know.
In this quiet neighborhood of very pleasant houses is the museum called the Cape Fear Museum. I seem to remember it was called Cape Fear because in the old days when they first settled it, everybody was scared to death of the Indians and the pirates around. This is the archaeology section with various old artifacts and pictures of the archaeologists at work digging stuff up and preserving it. The different levels carefully marked as they dug up. In Confederate days there was an arsenal here, building weapons for the war, the Civil War. One of the pirates was a former British officer called Stede Bonnet, who used to prey along ships along the Carolina coast. And I think I already told you that Scots were among the first people to colonize the area. It's a nice little museum. Compact, well laid out, interesting. And they used to caulk the ships and make them waterproof with tar, pitch and resin from the evergreen trees in the state, of which apparently there were quite a lot. Homely little place. Most of the early town was destroyed with a great fire in 1831. As I mentioned earlier, there was an arsenal at Fayetteville making ammunition for the Confederates, which of course became a target of General Tecumseh Sherman, who destroyed it on his famous march to the sea in 1865. Weaving on the loom and other aspects of small town, small business and home life. But what I really like, McLaurin's Central General Store, with its wonderful wall telephone and cash register, and most of all with its fabulous stuff on the shelves, Prince Albert in a can and all these out-of-date goods. And Royal Crown Cola making a bigger mark than Coke. And of course this was a big tobacco area. And early in the 19th century there were hundreds of steamboats plying the nearby rivers.
Geography and planning your head when we're downstairs.
River travel. Roads non-existent in those days.
be able to go from there. So back down from where we hang. I don't want to talk about this too much in here.
Paddle steamer.
No, Heidi's going to give you a tour. This is.
And there's a lot of lovely old houses very near the museum, including this, which is called the Poe House, P-O-E, 1897. And it was lived in by a guy called Edgar Allan Poe. Not the famous author, but a guy who was named after the famous author. A bit confusing, but a nice house anyway. The Poe House. Near Fort Bragg, near Fayetteville is Fort Bragg, which is the biggest military base in the country. And the local paper, the Fayetteville Observer, has a section called Military, in which they have stories like Commander makes gender a non-issue, and disability ruling is appealed. Celebrity stalking American style, and opportunities keep coming with National Guard duty. Well, now it's all over, and the big hall has been stripped down. All those different little tourist departments have taken the toys and gone home.
To the door.
Stand up, hook up, shuffle to the door.
And we leap right out and count to 4.
Leap right out and count to 4.
If my main don't open wide.
If my main don't open wide.
I've got a reserve by my side.
I've got a reserve by my side. Hey!
Here we go.
Here we go.
All the way.
All the way.
Gotta be rough and tough.
Rough and tough.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lordy.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lordy.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
Well, I see 130 rolling down the street.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
64 troopers on the one-way trip.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
Well, a mission top secret destination unknown.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
They don't know if they're ever coming home.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
Here we go.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
All the way.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
Every day.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
All the way.
Hey, lordy, lordy, lo.
March. Your left, pick it up, your left. Your left, pick it up, your left. Your left, right on left, right on left, right left. Your left, right on left.
And this is John Wilcock. I'm out of the country again.